Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we will be listening to the 6th part of What If Deku Became a Vigilante. If you enjoy, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing down below, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get notified when videos go live. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Chapter 17, Awakening. What the fuck? Someone sat up next to him, and Yamada-sensei entered his field of vision. Kitsune. Are you alright? He groaned, as awareness hit him like a truck. I feel like shit. A chuckle had him turning his head. Recovery girl stood on the other side of his bed. Well, a punctured lung, broken ribs, and blood loss will do that to you. Especially since you insisted on no painkillers. Oh. Kitsune shrugged lopsidedly. That would do it? So snarky even when you're in pain, Yamada-sensei said. No wonder Shouta likes you. Why thank you, he responded. How long have I been out? It's about 7 at night, Present Mike said, so about 9 hours. Well, shit, Kitsune said. That's a long time. He could feel the burning glare of Recovery Girl drill into his soul. Your body clearly needed it. You're going to need energy for my quirk, which means you're going to sleep more. I've got a few 5-hour energies and espresso shots on me, I think I can make it. There were a few beats of silence. Well, I guess I know why your heart rate is erratic, Recovery Girl said. Under the blanket, Kitsune palmed a 5-hour energy from one of his pockets. I'm fine, he grinned under the mask. Just kiss me and let me go, yeah. I do have places to be. He's gotta go pick up Eri, after all. Recovery Girl rolled her eyes, but kissed Kitsune's arm when he offered it. A wave of exhaustion hit him, but he still hung on. How's Eraserhead? He asked. Yamada-sensei sighed. It's rough, but he's gonna pull through. We're all more worried about you, little listener. I'll pull through, Kitsune tried to reassure him. If 5 bullets and food poisoning can't take me down, nothing can. Kid, you are the sole reason I am going gray. Eraser Dad. Kitsune cheered, trying to sit up but not being able to due to a big ouch. Hello, problem child. Eraserhead grumbled. You're going to give me a heart attack. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Yamada-sensei go over to Eraserhead. Shouta! He cried out, lightly pulling his husband into a hug. Hi Hisashi, Eraserhead softened up, as much as he could tell from his mummified bandaged self. I'm fine, I'm fine. Honey, you broke like, all your bones. It makes them stronger. Kitsune chirped from his bed. Kid no dash. Thankfully, the doctor came in. Good, you're both awake, she said, then looked wearily at the 2 people who weren't in hospital beds. Recovery Girl, Present Mike, we need to talk. The 3 adults left the hospital room, and Kitsune grinned under the mask, taking a quick assessment of all of his gear. Surprisingly, he had almost everything on him, the exception being his Kevlar vest. Looking around, he could see that it was lying on the nightstand, with the straps being cut through. It would be a bitch to repair, but not undoable. Kid, what are you doing? Eraserhead asked from the other bed. He slowly sat up, looking to the side so he could lift his mask and down the 5-hour energy. I can't stay, Eraser, he responded. You know that? You could, the man practically begged. You could let us help you. Kitsune winced, moving around a little, and then pushed the pain away, like he always did. He picked up his vest, putting it under his armpit and pulling his hood back up. I can't, he said, his voice surprisingly sorrowful. I'm sorry. Ignoring the hero shouting behind him, he quickly unlatched the window, sliding out and jumping down. They were on the 4th floor, so he activated the new quirk he got from the Numu, and let the ground crack underneath his feet. By the time the heroes got back to the hospital room, there was no trace of the vigilante. He stripped himself of his vigilante gear, instead taking the time to put on a pair of ratty pajamas. He grabbed his laptop and his phone, because if he was going to take a few days to heal instead of patrolling, he was still going to get work done. Thankfully there was no school tomorrow, and there most likely won't be for a couple of days afterwards. Opening his phone, he saw all the notifications on his phone. The favorite dash Auntie. Hi Auntie, I'm still not feeling good, can you keep Eri for the night? Oh sweetie, of course. Remember to have fluids. Of course, smiley face. I saw the news. How's kickin'? He's doing okay, Eri is cheering him up. You know we could take care of you too if you came over. Thanks for the offer auntie, but I'm okay. Alright, but let me know if that changes, okay? I will promise. Squad of wild dumbasses, 8:51 p.m. Dumbass 1, Kitsune, Dumbass 2, Himi-chan, Daddy Issues, Dabby, Secretly British, Gentle Criminal, and Hacker Voice, Degree, La Brava, are online. Dumbass 1, hey y'all, can't patrol today, can one of you cover my route? Daddy Issues, alright, what BS happened now? Dumbass 1, why would you assume something happened? Secretly British, because you never take a break unless you're forced to due to an injury. Dumbass 1, I came out here to have a good time and I'm honestly feelin' so attacked RN. Hacker Voice, Degree, so what at you? Dumbass 1, let's just say there was a hole in my lung and leave it at that. Daddy Issues, what the fuck? Secretly British, how? Hacker Voice, Degree, huh? Dumbass 1, I got some top-notch healing though, so I'm fine. Dumbass 1, just on bed rest. Dumbass 2, ill cover or shift Foxy. Dumbass 1, thank you Himi. Dumbass 2, no prob man. Friendos 3, 8:55 p.m. Fusro. Present Mike, Tsuki-kun, Detective Tsukachi, and Jessica Rabbit, Midnight, are all online. Fusro. How the fuck did you do that? Jessica Rabbit, what? What's going on? Fusro. According to show, Kitsune jumped out of the 4th story window. Jessica Rabbit, is he alright? God's mistake, Kitsune, Fusro. Tsuki-kun, and Jessica Rabbit are all online. God's mistake, chill, I'm fine. Fusro. You have broken ribs. God's mistake, I had broken ribs. God's mistake, there's a difference. Tsuki-kun, kid, you're gonna make me go gray. God's mistake, that makes 2 of you. Fusro. We're going to rest, right? God's mistake, I will rest. God's mistake, pinky promise. Tsuki-kun, good. Jessica Rabbit, I'm legally allowed to kill you if you break a pinky promise. God's mistake, well, when you put it like that. Tsuki-kun, kid. Fusro. Tsuki-kun and Jessica Rabbit are all online. Fusro. Kitsune. Izuku smirked, then put his phone on his nightstand. Nightstand is a strong word, it's a cardboard box. He sighed, wincing as he laid down on his bed. The exhaustion of the entire day settled over his bones, pain throbbing throughout his entire body. He missed his medication, but they had put quirk-canceling cuffs on him, so hopefully he could hold out until tomorrow. His breath tasted like blood though. Instead of doing the work he was supposed to be doing, he rolled over, hugging a pillow close to his chest. He almost lost Eraser, the first person since Eri to get close to him. The man who is almost a father figure to him. He almost missed the tears that soaked his pillow, sticking to his face in a cruel mockery of the blood splattered on erasers. He just clutched it closer, silently sobbing as the ghosts of his past floated at the edge of his vision. I promise. I promise I'll do better. This will never happen again. Chapter 18, Dawn. Izuku sighed, leaving the tie a knotty mess. The bags under his eyes looked deeper than usual. He hasn't been sleeping, his father's Eraserhead's mangled body haunts him every time he closes his eyes. Eri was concerned, insisting on trying to take care of him, which just made the guilt worse. He should be okay, his little sister shouldn't be trying to look after him. Little sunshine, are you all packed? He asked, poking his head out of the bathroom. From the table, his sister nodded as she stuffed sliced apples into her face. With a quiet chuckle, he came out into the living room, packing his bag and making sure everything was secure. She insisted on sticking close to him, glued right next to his side as they walked to the train station to meet Kiken and Eureka. She chattered on about anything she could think of, whether it was the games she played while she stayed at the Bakugos to the new book they had gotten from the library for her to read. Despite the tiredness lingering in his bones, Izuku still swung her hand like usual, and the relieved smile on her face was worth it. Nerd, you look like shit, Kiken said, both him and Eureka with concerned looks on their faces. I'm fine, Izuku waved them both off. Just didn't get much sleep is all. Weren't you sick? Yurika asked. Kind of hard to get any sleep when you're puking your guts up, Izuku chuckled, trying to play it off as a joke. You were puking? Kaken shouted. Kami, you should have come over. I'm fine now, Izuku smiled, although it seemed to make them more concerned. No more puking for me. Eri nodded next to him. Nurse Eri checked. He is free of the plague. Then you must have done a good job. Yurika cheered, picking up the girl. Izuku smiled, looking over as Kaken bumped his shoulder. Cheeks, can you carry my bag? He asked. Sure. She shrugged, putting Eri down and accepting his backpack. Kaken, what are you ak? Izuku was scooped onto Kaken's back, scrabbling to get his arms around Kaken's shoulders so that he wasn't choking his friend. Eri was giggling from where she was standing next to Yurika. His face flushed as he pressed his head down, trying not to reveal how red his face was to his friends. From where his hands were around Kaken's shoulders, he could really feel his friend's muscles, and logically he knew that Kaken had bulked out. He'd seen it, but seeing is it different than feeling it? Guys. Let's go. Yurika shouted. Shit. We're coming round cheeks. Kaken. Language. Thankfully, they were not late to class, although Izuku got a side eye from Ryudo-sensei, ectoplasm. He wondered where Yamada-sensei was, but taking his seat next to Shinsu was more important right then. Dude, you look like shit, Shinsu signed, while Ryudo-sensei started talking. That stomach bug really did a number on you. Izuku just nodded. I'll be back to usual as soon as I get some caffeine in my system. Anyways, the sports festival is coming up, Ryudo-sensei continued on, Izuku only bothering now to tune back in. It's mandatory for all classes, but only the top 50 or so continue to the semi-finals, so if you really don't want to participate, you can just lose on purpose. The recreational games are completely optional. For anyone who wants to transfer into the hero course, this will be your chance to prove to the administration that you're worthy enough to transfer in. Both Izuku and Shinsu looked at each other with matching grins. It was game time. Use these next 2 weeks to prepare wisely, whether you decide to try and transfer or not. It's self-study for the rest of the period. At those parting words, people started getting up to talk. Izuku shuffled his desk over, scooting over to Shinsu to continue their side conversation. I'm gunning for the hero course, Shinsu grinned. I'm not going to go easy on you just because we're classmates. I would be insulted if you did, Izuku shot back. I'm not going easy on you either. I'm curious though, your quirk is perfect for the entrance exams. Why didn't you make it in? Because you only know one of my quirks. If you knew everything, you'd abandon me right here. Izuku shook his head. First day back after being out, he was going to be positive, damn it. I never took the hero course exam. Shinsu raised an eyebrow. Really? Why not? I'm blacklisted from the hero course. Shinsu stared at him for an uncomfortably long amount of time, to the point where Izuku was starting to sweat a little bit. How the fuck are you blacklisted from the hero course? Discrimination. What fucking kind? The kind where your distant ancestor was a villain, but because you're related by blood, you are blacklisted from the hero course. Oh shit, Shinsu muttered out loud, turning some nearby heads. Sorry man. Izuku shrugged. It's okay, not a particularly touchy subject for me. How are you planning on getting in then? I'm going to use the sports festival against them. If I win, then it would be stupid for the HPSC to not let me into the hero course. And they would know because it was broadcasted all over national TV, Shinsu signed, picking up on what he was putting down. Smart. Thanks. I try. Ryudo-sensei left, and Kayama-sensei entered. Izuku turned back to the board, eyes glued to the screen. Despite the dark thoughts lingering on the edge of his mind, he was hopeful. This is his chance to make All Might proud. Stop, Zuko, stop, for the love of Dash. Izuku was slowly tuning his friend out as he filled a big cup with espresso shots. Kami, you're gonna have a heart attack. It hasn't killed me yet, I'll be fine, he replied easily, topping off his cup with his 20th shot. He turned just in time to see Kaken sputter, and walked back towards his table. His friends were already sitting there, talking among themselves about the sports festival. You can't just say things like that. Kaken shouted from behind him, catching the attention of the table. You know what, Give it here. Kikin no. The explosive blonde lunged forwards, hands aiming for the cup of coffee. Years of honed reflexes and just knowing Kikin let Izuku dance around him as the blonde pivoted, trying to snatch his hard-earned coffee. Watch out. The warning from Itza came too late. Izuku tripped backwards as Kikin lunged forwards, the coffee flying out of his hands and onto Hatsum, who was working on something, which started to spark. Duck. Izuku slid underneath the table, covering his head as he heard a muffled explosion from above him. When he peeked back over the table, he saw that Kikin had ducked behind a nearby potted plant, Shinsu had joined him and Itza under the table, Eureka had floated herself up towards the ceiling, and was still floating, that might be an issue, and Kiri's Hima from the next table had grabbed Eri and protected her using his quirk. Hatsum just sat there, covered in soot, fully protected due to her goggles and what he was fairly certain was an explosion immunity quirk. What is going on? So, let me get this straight, Snipe-sensei said, a hand to his forehead. You, he pointed at Izuku, had gotten a cup of coffee made of 20 espresso shots, which caused you, he pointed at Kikin, to try and fight him to take it from him which caused it to spill on your, he finally pointed to Hatsum, invention. Yeah. Yep. Kikin just grumbled. Power Loader Sensei just sighed. Hatsum, you're not supposed to be working hands-on on any projects outside the labs. But it's just little projects. I don't need anything from the lab. It's about safety, Hatsum. And you, Aizawa Sensei, who was basically a mummy, seriously why was he at school, turned to Kikin. Why did you think it was a good idea to fight your classmate for his coffee? It was a fucking intervention. Kikin growled. This idiot is gonna die of a heart attack one of these days. Hey. Izuku said. I'm not gonna die of a heart attack. Snipe-sensei said, and what makes you think that, Midoriya? I mean, it hasn't happened yet. Kikin groaned, dropping his head into his hands. Hatsum just cackled. The teachers let out a collective sigh. Kikin looked at the teachers like, you see what I have to deal with? Izuku looked back at him. Like what, Kikin? Kikin rolled his eyes and smacked him. Power Loader Sensei spoke up. Alright, Hatsum, one day of no lab time dash. And a 1,000-word essay about lab safety. Hatsum pouted, and then Aizawa Sensei rounded on them. Bakugu, detention, and a 1,000-word essay on what you should have done in this situation. What the fuck? And Midoriya, Snipe Sensei addressed him. You are banned from using the coffee machine. What? Izuku jumped up. But I need it to survive. I'll keel over and die without it? Oh. Hatsum jumped up too. If I record the results of Broccoli-kun's deprivation, can I get extra credit? No. Midoriya, you will be fine, Aizawa Sensei sighed. You're all dismissed. Izuku pouted, as Kikin grabbed him in a headlock and literally dragged him away. He didn't even eat his lunch. Dabi stood in front of a corkboard, pinning up index cards and connecting them with red string. It's not often he indulged his inner conspiracy theorist, but when he did. What are you doing? Gentle asked from behind him. Dabi turned around to find the older man standing there with a curious look on his face, La Brava standing next to him. There were various pieces of information connected to Kitsune, with the center of the board being a card labeled "What the fuck is up with Foxy?" There was everything from his insistence to keeping an eye on the Shihasakai, to his weird insistence on Akatani Mikumo being left alone, to the League of Villains. Some of the information he had to dig deep for, relying on old favors from scattered contacts. I'm trying to figure this out, Dabi said, the cigarette still hanging out of his mouth. So Kitsune, we know his face and that he has a younger sister named Eri. Then there's the Shihasakai, apparently they were running some sort of trigger business and were in the process of making quirk-removing bullets. A couple years ago, Kitsune hit the Shihasakai for some reason, taking something vital for the production of those bullets and erasing the quirk of some member. Then there's Akatani Mikumo, only like 5 people know his name, otherwise he's the monster of the underground. He has no MO other than stealing people's quirks and then killing them. However, there's been rumors that he has some connection to the League of Villains. The same group that attacked Yue with the intention to kill All Might, that Kitsune had been tracking and went to go stop. And then there's this Kikin kid that he keeps mentioning, I have no idea where he fits in at all. Plus we still don't know what his actual quirk is, despite having known him for years and him knowing all of ours. Finally taking a deep breath after pacing around and gesturing wildly to his board, he looked back at his friends. Gentle just looked done with everything, while La Bravo looked confused. Dabby, don't you think you're just looking a bit too much into things? Gentle asked. He flailed, gesturing back to his board. There's something here and I know it. I just don't know what. La Brava started thinking to herself. I think you just don't have enough information, she finally said. We just need to wait for more information, otherwise you're just gonna drive yourself crazy. Dabby sighed, but he does know that the hacker's right. Well, can you help me cover this up? I don't want Foxy seeing this. As his friends found a blanket to cover his corkboard with, he continued to ponder. Dabby will get to the bottom of this, however long it takes. Chapter 19, A Step Towards Opportunities. Izuku once again judo flips Shinsu onto the mat, both of them huffing for breath. He dropped down to his knees and pinned him. After feeling a couple of taps on the inside of his arm, he got up, offering a hand to his friend. I'm not falling for that again, Shinsu huffed, getting up on his own. Izuku gasped dramatically. Why would I ever do that? Eri giggled from the side, where she was slurping up a juice pouch while drawing. You just did that last match. Izuku tactfully chose to ignore that last jab, looking over at the door that just opened to reveal Yamada-sensei. Time's up, little listeners. You've gotta go back home. Alright Yamada-sensei. Yes, Yamada-sensei. Both boys started cleaning up, and Eri started putting away her sketchbook and colored pencils that Kurano-sensei had given her. The past 2 weeks have been rigorous training after rigorous patrols. At least his nights have been nightmare-free, due to the fact that he was too exhausted after training with Shinsu at the gym and then tracking down criminals during the night. His body protested, but his mind has been the best it's ever been due to the leaps and bounds that he's been improving. Ah, just the 3 I was hoping to catch, Yagi-san said, ducking his head into the gym sheepishly. Squeezed in between training with Shinsu and going home, Izuku has also been having sessions with All Might to improve control over One for All. He hasn't told his mentor about Black Whip, but he did tell Yagi about the ghost realm he visited while he was sick. And now he could even hold One for All at 5% for a whole 3 minutes. Gran Torino had helped a lot too, sharing anecdotes and techniques that Nana Neon had used when she was alive. Izuku hadn't been back to the ghost realm yet to ask Nana firsthand, but he figured that Gran Torino was the closest he was gonna get. Hi Yagi-san. Just let me finish cleaning up real quick, Izuku said with a wave, pushing the mat up onto the side of the gym. Nah, go with your spooky mentor, Shinsu said, waving Izuku off when he tried to protest. I've got this. You sure? Yeah. Besides, aren't you the one always up my butt about how I need more muscles? Unable to argue with that, Izuku just shrugged, slinging his bag over his shoulder. Eri hopped over to join them, her bag over her shoulder, although he could see a couple of colored pencils sticking out of it. They followed Yagi out of the gym and towards the main campus, a different route than into the forest where they usually go to practice with One for All. Yagi-san. Where are we going? He asked, readjusting his bag when it dug into his shoulders. He turned back to Izuku, placing his hands on the boy's shoulders. We're not going to be training today. Izuku just blinked as his mind processed the statement. Why not? The sports festival is tomorrow, Yagi said, then buffed up into All Might. You'll need all the energy you can get to say I am here tomorrow. He then deflated and started coughing. Izuku didn't freak out and just pulled out a handkerchief, which Yagi gratefully accepted. What I'm saying, my boy, he continued, is that you've been working hard to prepare for tomorrow. I'm sure you'll do wonderfully, but only if you give your body time to rest. It seems that it's not only his best friend who's trying to give him an intervention. Izuku smiled sheepishly. You're right. I'll rest, I promise. Pinky promise? Yagi asked, holding out his hand. It was something that he had picked up during his time in America, and a habit he started early in Izuku's training. Yagi had noticed that Izuku wasn't finishing his meals when he ate with his mentor, so Yagi started making Izuku make pinky promises that he couldn't break. Now it's too late, Izuku has been conditioned to always keep pinky promises. He's just lucky that Kaken hasn't picked up the habit too. Izuku hooked his pinky with his mentor's pinky promise. Guess he wasn't going on patrol tonight. And young Eri, You promise to make sure young Midoriya gets his rest. Yagi knelt down, holding out a pinky to his sister. Pinky promise. Eri said enthusiastically, hooking her pinky. Now get home safe, Yagi said with a smile. Of course. Bye Yagi-san. Are you ready, Shinsu? Izuku asked, vibrating at the speed of light. He had managed to save up, and while it was initially to get Eri a candy apple from the fair, he also had enough left over to get himself a venti cup filled with espresso shots from a nearby Starbucks. On another note, he was now banned from said Starbucks. Of course I am, Shinsu signed. Do I even want to know how you got so hyper? I had a big ass thermos filled with espresso shots. Shinsu raised an eyebrow. Aren't you banned from the espresso machine? I stopped by Starbucks. I'm now banned from that Starbucks. Shinsu rolled his eyes, smacking his arm. Well, you better not have a heart attack on the field. I'm not gonna have a heart attack, Izuku shot back. If it hasn't killed me yet, it won't kill me now. That's not how that works dash. All classes, please report to the entrance. All classes, please report to the entrance. At the voice of the intercom, Izuku held out his hand, taking Shinsu and pulling him up. The rest of Class 1C was standing up, stretching out and getting ready. May the best man win, Izuku said with a grin. Shinsu matched it, and they both put their hands together. Plus Ultra. And now, for the pledge from your student representative, Bakugo Katsuki. Oh no, Izuku groaned. His best friend slouched onto the stage, taking the mic in his hands and saying, I pledge to be a good sport, and to do my best. That was met with some clapping, and Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. That wasn't that bad. But just so you know, I am gonna win this thing. Izuku spoke too soon. Among the boos from the crowd, was one very loud shout. Bakugo Katsuki. Kaken's eyes widened slightly. To everyone who knew him, it was a terrified expression. His best friend calling him by his first name put the fear of the kami in him. For good reason, as Izuku pushed his way through the crowd and climbed onto the stage. Pushing his idiot back into the crowd, out of the corner of his eye he saw Kiri's Hima catch him. Izuku strolled up to the mic and proceeded to deliver an actual pledge. What my friend meant to say, Izuku smiled, one of those smiles that was hiding rage behind it, was that we pledge to be fair to our other competitors, and to do our best. Plus Ultra. This pledge, delivered by someone other than the angry Pomeranian, was met with resounding cheers of Plus Ultra. Satisfied, Izuku hopped back down, regaining his place beside Shinsu. Chaos Gremlin, Shinsu declared. Izuku just flipped him the bird. And with that riveting turn of events, let's begin the games, with the obstacle course. Woo! Pre-game. Himi-chan cheered, then proceeded to chug the bottle of whiskey in her hand. Gentle ran after her to try and pry the bottle from her hands, but to no avail. La Brava was setting up the projector to play the UA Sports Festival onto one of the warehouse walls. Apparently, Dabby's little brother was going to be in the first-year festival, so they were all going to watch. The fox still hasn't responded, Dabby said from where he lounged on a beanbag. Himi-chan whined as Gentle finally confiscated the whiskey. Well, we're just gonna have to watch it without him, La Brava said, finally finishing the setup. It's starting in a minute. Just enough time to make popcorn. Himi-chan cheered, already sticking a bag into the microwave. Gentle just sighed and made himself comfortable on one of the chairs. La Brava sat crisscross on the beanbag chair next to him. La Brava was kind of zoning out through the ads and the introductions of the classes, more focused on shouting at Himi-chan about popcorn flavors, when suddenly midnight cracked a whip. The student pledge is about to begin. Hurry. Himi-chan managed to arrive with the delicious snack when the angriest kid imaginably walked onto the stage. His hair looked like a blonde cactus. I pledge to be a good sport, and to do my best. The half-hearted pledge was met with muted applause. Then the kid grinned insufferably and said, but just so you know, I am gonna win this thing. Dabby started booing and throwing popcorn at the projector. Himi-chan squawked at him to stop wasting valuable popcorn, and Gentle sighed while La Brava snickered. A gasp from Himi-chan brought their attention back to the projection as a kid shoved his way out of the crowd of kids and onto the stage. A very familiar kid. Kitsune. A face that La Brava seen for the past few years from under a kitsune mask was standing in front of a crowd of people, giving an actual pledge and getting actual applause from the crowd. We should stop watching. We agreed not to learn each other's names, Himi-chan said. I mean, we've been working together for a while, La Brava said. And I'm pretty sure we all know each other's names anyways. We're all ride or die by now. Himi-chan declared. Cheers, I'll drink to that, Dabby said, holding up the bottle of sake he had before taking a big drink. A toast. Himi-chan stood up, glass of blood in her hands. Gentle held up his teacup and La Brava held up hers. To us and our ride or die friendship. To us. As they cheered, La Brava pretended that Kitsune's fist bump into the air was also a part of their cheer. Chapter 20, Race to the Finish. Now, the rules, Midnight said, cracking her whip. No serious injuries, even if we have recovery girl on standby. Sabotage is allowed and encouraged. If you leave the course, you are disqualified. The top 42 advance to the next round. Everything else is fair game. Everyone got into position, and Izuku moved to the back, crouching down and feeling for one for all within his bones. The lights of everyone's quirks made the crowd seem like it's glowing, and it would be overwhelming if he weren't used to it by now. 3. Shinsu cracked his neck next to him, stretching himself out. 2. He saw Todoroki out of the corner of his eyes, moving to the back of the crowd. 1. To his right, Kaken let some sparks out in his palms, warming up. Go. And everything happened at once. Izuku jumped up, catapulting off of Shinsu's shoulders and launching himself into the air, just enough to avoid the crowd rushing the gate. Explosions popped behind him as Kaken soared above everyone with his quirk, and there were quickly shouts of alarm as ice coated the floor, sticking people's feet to the ground. He could hear people struggling to free themselves behind him, but Todoroki's ice actually worked to Izuku's benefit, as he used the shoulders of people stuck in the ice to propel himself further. When he got through the gate though, other students had passed him, but he was still pretty far in the lead. Letting Yamada-sensei's commentary go in one ear and out the other, he sprinted ahead to see a fuckton of the zero-pointer robots from the entrance exam. He heard a lot about them from Kaken's bitching after the practical. Todoroki had frozen one in a way that left it unstable, and Kaken was already blasting his way over them. A smart strategy, even if Izuku desperately wanted to fight one. Just for kicks, you know? He let the lightning flicker around him, powering up one for all at 5% for a moment before he leaped up. He reveled in the feeling of the flying, of the wind in his hair and of being weightless, and flashed a quick peace sign at a flying drone before gravity quickly took hold of him. Since when the fuck could he do that? He summoned one for all at 5% for a few more moments in order to land, cracking the earth underneath his feet, before letting it go and starting a dead sprint. Using boost instead of one for all this time, he made his way to the next obstacle. He caught a glimpse of it while he was in the air, but the nexus of wires over the drop of death made him giddy with excitement. Not just because he loves perilous danger, but because he's run over thinner cables as Kitsune. This was easy for him. Fuck it, he could have fun. He heard several people shouting at him from behind for showing off as he ran across the cables, doing flips and handsprings and cartwheels. Nothing that would be slower than just running, but some fancy things just to show off and earn him a couple of students flipping him off. Every time the cable wobbled, he cackled, enjoying himself far too much. He was allowed to enjoy himself. At least until Kaken inevitably kicked his ass for risking his life just to show off. All good things had to come to an end, and Izuku finally got to the other side. It was another dead sprint until the next obstacle. According to Yamada-sensei, it was a minefield. Now, there were a few things he could do. He was very good on his feet and could easily just run through the minefield. He could do what he did with the Robo Inferno and just jump over it again. Or, he could give both Kaken and Yagi-san a heart attack. He did get that shock absorption quirk after all. With a grin, the adrenaline still pumping through his veins, he took a running start, jumping and landing directly on one of the mines. He soared in the air, angling correctly to hit another one. And another one. And another one. He could hear Kaken screaming his name up ahead, and Izuku jumped once again. Shock absorption was really coming in hand, dispersing the force of the blasts away from him and giving him more airtime. It only took 5 mines to almost catch up with Todoroki and Kaken in the lead. He cackled as he jumped on another mine behind them, reveling in the glimmer of fear in Kaken's eyes. He landed between them, using both of their shoulders to propel himself forwards, onto another mine. Ignoring the sputtering of Kaken behind him, It only took one more mine to land on the other side of the minefield. Summoning one for all at 5% for the final sprint, he rushed ahead, ignoring explosions and crackling ice behind him. His heart pounded in his throat, a grin plastered on his face as he raced forwards. Caffeine was neck and neck with him, so Izuku elbowed him in the face and passed the finish line in first place. He tumbled over himself, releasing the quirk as he rolled over the turf. He laughed in relief, which was interrupted when Caffeine tackled him. That started up a hearty brawl, both of them releasing steam while Caffeine unleashed a stream of curses. "You fucking idiot. What the fuck were you thinking? You jumped on the fucking mines, it's a miracle you aren't dead yet, dumbass." Izuku just kept giggling as Caffeine put him in a chokehold, waving to Todoroki, who looked on in mild concern. "You missed the bit where I did flips and handsprings on the wires." Caffeine groaned, tightening the chokehold. "You fucking adrenaline junkie. Deku bro, is that really necessary?" Kirishima asked, approaching the pair. "Yes. Apparently this dumbass decided to do acrobatics over the drop of death." Caffeine air dash Izuku wheezed. He tightened it just enough for him to breathe. "Oh, I saw that," Kirishima said. "That was so manly, bro. See, someone appreciates me. And that someone is an idiot, because you're an fucking adrenaline junkie with no self-preservation." Ouch. Izuku slumped down in his hold, going completely slack. "I came here to have a good time and I honestly feel so attacked right now. Oh god damn it, stop being a fucking liquid." Izuku melted onto the ground, sticking his tongue out as he rolled over, escaping Caffeine's grasp. "Shinsu!" he cheered, bounding over to the tired student as Caffeine kept shouting behind him. "You made it? Kami, you gremlin!" Shinsu responded, smacking him lightly. "If you aren't gonna have a heart attack, I might just have one. It's fine. I was never gonna slip anyways." Izuku bounced up and down, still hyper from both the caffeine and the adrenaline. "I'm not talking about that dash." Midnight's whip cracked, interrupting the students chatting in the field. "Now that everyone is back, we will be announcing the top 42 shortly. Don't worry if you didn't make the cut, there will be recreational activities later for all students to participate in. And our next event is..." Alright, that's where we'll leave off for the day. Thanks so much for listening along with me today. If you enjoyed, please like and comment down below. It really helps with the algorithms. I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao for now, lovelies.